Good morning guys and welcome back to the channel. On today's agenda, this has been a request that I've gotten in Facebook groups that I'm a part of for Acura and Type-Rs, comments that have been left on my Facebook, even shout out to the individuals that were at the Hondata event last week. They asked me in person, how do I do it? So I guess the first half of this video is really dedicated to answering that question, and I'm gonna show you guys exactly how to take off the front bumper of the car. Seems like a lot of people kind of get a little lost in certain areas, or it can be a bit overwhelming because I remember how it was my very first time doing it. So I kind of want to answer that question and show you the easiest way, at least for me, as to how that works. Now I'm not going to officially take it all off in its entirety. That'd be a lot of work just for the purposes of the video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly where everything is that you need to take off, and then by the same token I'll reference past videos that I've done where you can kind of see it coming out. But I'll cover all the basics so that everybody knows and understands exactly how easy it is, and you know, just to kind of get the fear out of the way for some individuals. But we're gonna get that started off here first. Obviously I'm right next to my car. I want to show you guys this part of the video so that way I can kind of dive into a little review around the Hondata Stage 1 tune and what are my thoughts, what do I like, if there's anything that I don't like. Was there a power increase? Was there not? Is it significant? Can you feel it? So I kind of want to answer all of those little questions in the second half of this video. But let's dive in. Let me show you how to get this front bumper off. So that way you don't mess anything up. One, or two, you don't break anything. So that way your bumper isn't misaligned. All right. First order of business, and I always say first because you kind of want to start up and then work your way down. Removing all the tabs that are on the top portion of the bumper that hold it to the frame of the car. So this is what I'm referencing, right? So every little tab you see here, oh, not this one, that's a bolt, I'm sorry. But every tab you see here, underneath the plastic housing, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's 14 clips on its own just from the top portion of the bumper. All right, so just so you guys know, those 14 need to come off. Now when you get off these two guys, right where the headlight is at, these two, and then these on these corner pillars of the bumper, they will release kind of like this section on each side of the bumper. And I'll reference a video obviously so you guys can see it, but that will release it from here and obviously from the front. Now the second part of this, and this is why I say go from the top down, right? So that way I don't miss any steps. The second part of this is actually the screws on the side of the bumpers, right? So there's 4 of them total on the driver and the passenger side. I'm going to show you right now. So let me turn the car on. All right, we got the wheel turn now. So what we'll do is we'll go to the area of the bumper where we need to get it removed. Like I said, there's 4 screws here, right? And they're right here so you guys can see. Don't mind my light, it's my camera or my phone light. But as I said, there's 4 screws here, right? So at the very bottom of the bumper, where it meets kind of like the lip, you have 1 tab right here. Then as you go up, you can see there is a star screw right here. Then there's another tab right here. And then right in the nook of the bumper, right up here is a screw that's pointed up that holds the fender to the bumper. So you need to remove all 4 of these guys on both the driver and the passenger side, all right? So don't forget, it's on both sides. Now, for the bottom part of the car, which can be the most cumbersome, there's a lot going on underneath there, which is all just tabs and then 10 mil bolts. So if I'm just doing it off the top of my head, I believe it's 4 10 mil bolts. But I got the car jacked up. Let's see. As you guys can see, she's on the jack now. So I'm gonna go underneath here and try to show it to you guys as best as I can. But I'll point it all out. But remember, I'm on the passenger side here. So whatever you do on the passenger side, you obviously have to repeat it on the driver's side. So here is a view of the bumper, right? Look, if you see my hand over here, this is the very front of the bumper. You see these clips here? You do not touch these clips. You do not need to take any of these out. I made this mistake the very first time I took off the bumper, and the whole thing basically came apart. So do not, and I repeat, do not take these out, all right? Now, what we're looking for is right here. You see these lines? All of these clips need to come out. All of them across the board, straight across. Now the whole bumper connects to that portion of it. So the ones you want to get out are all of these. And then if you look right here, there's some grooved in right here as well. So you want to get all of these guys out. They're all here along this wall and along this wall. And then the 10-mil bolts that I was telling you about, there's one literally right above my head. And I'll pull the camera back. That's one of them. And then there's obviously another one at the very far end. And I believe there's 2 more, but yeah, there should be 4 total. I remember taking out 4. So 1 over here, 1 on the other end, and there may be 1 on the inside. Somewhere that I see it. It's right in here actually. Oh, no, I misspoke. It's right here, see? So there's 1, here's 2, obviously on the other side that's 4. Then you'll take out each and every single one of these guys. On this plastic portion, you have to take out this guy too, because this little tab slides in and out, and you need to get out this tab obviously, so that way it's no longer connected to the bumper or the rest of this plastic. And then outside of that, there is, at the very front of the bumper, as you can see right here where the sensor is at, if you look, not here, remember this is the ones we don't need to take out, but right behind it, it follows this same line path, right? But right underneath it, this little, like this piece is destroyed obviously because of the car slammed, but right behind it, there's 3 more clips. 1, 2, and then a third one right here. You don't need to worry about the screw, you can leave that in, but that will need to come out. And then obviously the only portion too is right here on the front lip of the car, this little corner piece on each side. So to recap, because I know that's a lot, right? If we're looking at the front of the bumper on the passenger side, you have the 1 tab that is literally holding in like this lip portion, the stock lip. Then if you want to move down to number 2, you have like this kind of like little plastic skid plate to prevent any, I guess, scratching underneath the car. This one has 3 tabs on its own, which we just reviewed, right? There's 1 here, there's 1 down here, there's 1 right up here behind it. That's the second part. The third part, you're gonna follow this path, this line path, and remove all the tabs out of the bumper from underneath, right? All of those gotta go. The last portion of it is removing the 4 bolts along this straight narrow path as well, and then all of these tabs, and the bumper will come out. So those are the 4 areas. The front lip, right behind on the skid plate on the plastic. Then obviously the third portion of it is all those tabs. The fourth portion is all of these guys. And you will get it out of here. Now that you got those are all the tabs, right? That's just me covering all the tabs and the screws that you need to get out of this guy. That's tabs, screws, and bolts. Let me correct myself. Now, after all of that is done, you just yank on the bumper and pull it out. No, just kidding. But after that is done, here is the next kicker. The front bumper comes with 3 sensors you need to remove. And when I say remove, I mean unplug. You don't have to do anything outside of that. Before you start yanking on the bumper, you want to be careful. So when you take off the 2 sides connected to the fenders, and right here, when you take off these guys, you literally just pull this out, and that's fine. It won't break, trust me. There is this parking sensor that still connects to the wire harness on the inside, and the bumper won't fall unless you get that out. So when you pry this portion on each corner off, you need to be very aware of the sensor, because remember, I ended up breaking the bracket and had to buy a new sensor. It wasn't crazy expensive. I'm sorry, I had to buy a new bracket, not the sensor, but the bracket broke. So the bracket was like 16 bucks. But still, to avoid breaking anything, when you pull this off, and it'll pull off with very little force actually, make sure you stick your arm in there and just put it behind here and just pull out the clip for the sensor. It's literally just squeeze it and it's out. That obviously applies to both sides, right? So whatever you do here, do on the other end. Now, there's another clip that is the middle of the bumper. So when you go and the bumper's kind of already off of the car, you're gonna wanna stick your arm inside the front side of it. Where the hood latch is at is literally right underneath it. So literally you can I can fit my arm in and unclip it, or you can wait until you've already removed it and you can do it then. That one's not the one that you kind of freak out about. It's the two on the sensor portions of the bumper on each corner that you don't want to rip, obviously. Then outside of that, that's really it, right? So once you remove all those clips, stick your arm in for the sensors, get the sensors out. You literally just pull, and not hard, guys, don't do it hard, but you're literally just gonna pull on the sides where the bumper meets the fender. Those will come off, and you can even put a light in it and see what's kind of attached to it. And then after that, the only other portion of it where you'll have to put a little force is where the Integra symbol is at, underneath each headlight. And what I like to do is I would kind of push up on the bumper and then pull out, so that way I wouldn't ruin the tabs. Maybe somebody else has a better method than I do, but I found that to work out, and they didn't break because there are tabs inside of here that connect underneath the headlight housing, and that's kind of how it latches on to the body. So just FYI, but that's really it to it. All the areas of the bolts, you guys know where the 3 sensors are at in the front bumper. And then obviously you'll see it. I'll put it in the video here. And if you want, you can revisit the one where I really kind of took my time with the bumper was when I installed my PRL intercooler. And I'll put that right here in the video so you guys can see. But outside of that, that's really all that's to it for the front bumper. Don't freak out. You're gonna have to pull a little bit. You're gonna have to put some muscle into it when you wanna get it off of the headlight housing or right underneath the headlight housing. Outside of that though, it comes off like a breeze, all right? So just don't freak out. It'll come off. You might have to finesse it a little bit, but you won't break anything, that's for sure, all right? Now that that's explained, and if you guys have any questions too, please let me know in the comments. If you would like to see me just do the whole thing again, I will. I didn't do it for the sake of this video because it takes time, 1, and then 2, I've done it in other videos, but I guess I should have gone into more descriptive detail of it. Now that I know where everything is at, it makes it a lot easier for me to explain to you guys. So, but if there are any other questions or you really want me to see me do it fully, I'll do it, no problem. But now that that's out the way, let's go for a drive and we can talk about the Hondata Stage 1 tune that I got done on the car and what are all my thoughts around it, all right? And this is obviously before we get into getting this guy on the dyno. You guys know I'm still waiting on 2 parts. I'm about to get into that after we get back from this drive, all right? So let's get in. So I wanted to give a little review about the tune. Now, it makes a lot more noise, that's for sure. I wanted to speak briefly about the tune. Now, this is my first experience ever with any kind of tune, any modifications to an ECU for any car that I've ever owned. So I went into it with that, and I have to speak on it as that, right? Because I don't have much experience with it. From what the tune did that I can notice power-wise is that it obviously feels really, really different. And when I say different, I mean they definitely opened up the power band on it. I think the first thing you notice is the amount of boost that you get now. I can't remember exactly what it was stock. I think it was like somewhere between like 16 to 20, something around that. If I just push it right now, we just hit 24 pounds of boost according to the car. So that's the first thing I've noticed, right, is the boost certainly gets increased really, really quickly. So I'm guessing that's how they draw out the power, is by changing obviously how much it boosts. Second thing is that while Hondata, while they were able to kind of pick and choose certain parts that I already have installed on the car, they weren't able to slot them all, right? And that's just how their software is, right? So while they were doing the tune, they asked if I had a downpipe, XYZ, and those are kind of boxes you could check. And then obviously, after checking those boxes and they flash it, well then, kind of like the power gets out of those parts, and you obviously should see an increase in horsepower, I would presume. There's only a select few options, and I can't remember. I have to go back on my laptop to look at it. But that was one facet of Stage 1, right? The biggest difference that people were choosing between was either flashing the ECU putting it on Hondata Stage 1 or putting it on Hondata Stage 2. And from my understanding of all of it, it was Stage 2 is just louder, and this is already as loud as I would want it. It pops and bangs like crazy now. It can be a little overwhelming if you don't like that kind of stuff, so you don't have to presumably take it, but the option is there just in case. Somebody actually stopped me, obviously, because I have the Insta360 mounted on the back of the trunk of the car. So they're asking me questions. I figured I'd pull over and we chatted a bit, asked about the channel. I showed them the car. So it just goes to show you, right? I mean, everywhere you go, the car kind of grabs attention. But then when I got a camera mounted to the back of it, I got the camera mounted here on the front, it just brings a lot of questions. So I don't mind answering them. The guys was really, really nice, actually. It was cool to meet somebody else that shares the same interest, but then also I just had some questions, right? It's never a bad thing to answer them. So nice meeting the person. Hopefully, you know, they subscribe. Getting back to the topic at hand, what you really notice on this Hondata Stage 1 tune is the boost obviously increases. So that's where you feel the power at. Second, it's definitely more throaty. So when you get on the gas, you feel it wanting to go, and it does respond better. I won't say it's 100% dialed in. I wouldn't expect that though from like an off-the-shelf kind of map. But for what it does, it's definitely vastly better than what the car does stock. So from that aspect of it, I'm super happy. Now, once we get the car fully dialed in on the dyno, then I'm sure it'll be a vastly like crazy difference in terms of power, how the car handles, and you know, just how it overall reacts on the road when you're driving. That I'm actually looking very forward to. But like I said, you don't expect much, right? It's off the shelf, so there's only so much I guess they can do. The major part was just getting the car unlocked, and I'm very pleased with what at least that map does, but it certainly leaves you wanting more, which is what the dyno's gonna be coming up for here very soon. So I'm gonna make my way back to the house. We'll wrap up the video there, but I kind of just wanted to touch on that, drive a bit for you. If you don't like a lot of the pops and bangs, I would say when you get to Stage 1, opt to not have it because it is loud. Like, I will not sugarcoat how loud it is. And it happens anytime you let go of the gas now, as opposed to when it was stock, right? But, you know, the stock tune from the dealer, you would get them every so often, and you had to kind of go into higher RPM ranges to get to that point. Now it's all the time. So if you don't like that, obviously you don't have to opt for the pops and bangs. You can just leave that unchecked, and you can still flash the car the same way with the same power output that I have now. If you want more pops and bangs, you can go to the Stage 2 one, but I think that's just the only difference. At least that's what they explained to me at the event. Between Stage 1 and 2, same power, the same power gains, but you get more pops and bangs. And from what Stage 1 is, that's more than enough. Stage 2, I can only imagine what that sounds like, but I also don't want to imagine what it sounds like because I'd probably be reflashing my own car. We still have more parts to put on. I'll explain that when we get back to the house. I'm going to kind of enjoy the ride back now, but I'll share what was sent to me from the company that I ordered the parts from, and I'll share that with you guys once I get back to the garage. Let's get back to the house, and then I'll go a little deeper into that, all right? All right, so we made it back, and I wanted to cover exactly what I spoke with. So I had some emails back and forth with PDP, who are the makers of the turbo and downpipe blanket that I ordered. Now, what they had mentioned was, sadly, the downpipe blanket was on back order. With that being on back order, well, obviously we gotta wait. Another airplane. Jeez. All right, airplane part 2 gone. We'll get it done quick before the next one comes in. But PDP said that the downpipe was on back order. They did have my turbo blanket, and they set that to the side so that way I don't lose that one on the order. But they're just waiting till they remanufacture more of those. I know that via email they said that they were going to reach out to some of their vendors or some of their sellers to see if they may have had one in stock that they could have sold to me, but they didn't. Maybe with, you know, the Integra, and since most of the parts from the FL5 fit on the DE5, I think that's kind of why a lot of these things are sold out. But in the interim, they did say that at the earliest it'd be here at the end of this month. The latest would be the first week of July. So we're coming up on that. It's getting here quick, and I also want those parts here so that way I can obviously get to the dyno, which is the biggest thing for me. I want to get on the dyno. I want to get the real power and all the real numbers out of this guy. So we're just going to keep waiting until those parts come back in, and we'll go from there. But I figured in that time frame, there was a video I wanted to do, and I think that'll probably be the video for next week until we wait on these parts. I'm going to give you guys a full breakdown of what it has costed, not only one, to get the car, what I paid for the car, but then also what I paid for all these parts. We're expecting that this guy gets slightly over 400 horsepower. At least that's what we're aiming for. I can see another airplane in the air right now, so get ready for that. That's what we're aiming for, right? So with that, I kind of want to give an honest breakdown, right, of what these parts costed me. Could I have gone in a different direction, you know, i.e. other vendors, or other manufacturers, I should say, or other companies. I'm gonna end it here, guys. Stay tuned for next week's video. Obviously, stay tuned for these turbo blankets when they do arrive. I'll put up a picture when they do finally get here on the YouTube community so you guys can see what they look like before we install them. But outside of that, enjoy the rest of your weekend, right? It's been a beautiful weekend here in Chicago. It's been a beautiful week, extremely hot, but I'll take heat any day over the freezing cold and snow. Enjoy the rest of your day. And as always, go ahead, local, take it easy, because I'm out.